Today we're here to talk about some things that I know you've been asking a lot of questions about, and there have been questions about permitting and all this other stuff, and some of the questions, why does it take so long, is simply because we want to do it right. And so in doing it right, you have to take your time to do it right. And then, as I was saying to the man from the Post on Monday night, that whenever we do it, it will be on time. So now this is the time. And what we've done, there's been a lot of communications between a lot of people, a lot of meetings, and it is an attempt to balance between safety, security, and constitutional rights of people, and to ensure that we have a successful convention here in the city of Cleveland, and that it comes off in a way that puts Cleveland in the best image and the best light. So today we're going to lay out in some detail the process of the official parade route, parade permits, park use, speakers, platform regulations, and some things around vending. And immediately following this press conference, the reason why we said we have to be out here at 10:30 because border control starts at 10:30, and they have to approve the resolution that will authorize all of what we'll be talking about to you today, okay? And now we'll have, it'll be me, then Secret Service agents, then the police chief, and then Rick Horvath will give you more of the details of how this is going to be laid out. I don't know if any of you have met our Secret Service agent. I think this is your first press conference. Yes, sir. Right. That's why they call them Secret Service. You know, y'all keep asking, well, what's your security plan? It wouldn't be a security plan if they told you, right? But they are here today because this is one of many rollouts that we're going to be doing, and they want to be part of this to show how they've been part of the developing of this and how we'll be doing things moving forward. So, Agent Rowe.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Ron Rowe. I am the RNC coordinator for the Secret Service. I'm joined by my deputy, Tim Leah. We were R-O-W-E, and Leah is L-E-A. We were named last May. Shortly thereafter, we started coming up to Cleveland to introduce ourselves to our public safety partners and start the ball rolling for this important event. We have been here on the ground full-time since last fall. As you know, the RNC it's a major event. It is a very complex event. And the important thing to remember is not one agency can do it by themselves. This is a collaborative effort. The Republican National Convention was designated a national special security event by the Secretary of Homeland Security. What that means is that there are certain clear lanes of responsibility that go part and parcel with assisting in the planning of this event. Ultimately, the Secret Service is the lead planning organization for security. However, we cannot do this by ourselves. Our greatest partner in this entire endeavor is the City of Cleveland, the Department of Public Safety, and we have been fortunate enough to be working side by side, shoulder to shoulder with all of the divisions in the Department of Public Safety. But our greatest asset has been Chief Williams and his executive staff. This is a very complex event, and the framework of a national special security event and the model that we approach to making sure that we secure these types of events is we implement a subcommittee system. We have more than 24 subcommittees, and these subcommittees are staffed with representatives from all the agencies that are supporting the security plan. We have representatives from federal, state, county, and municipal agencies. These subcommittees are staffed with subject matter experts, and they run the gamut from intelligence and counterterrorism to health and medical. Ultimately, these subcommittees and the representatives that staff them will develop their own individual security plans that will ultimately be sent forward and will be woven into the larger operations plan for the RNC. This is not something that the Secret Service just comes in and says, this is how we're going to do it. We rely heavily on our partners to inform us, and they are equitable partners in the decision-making process. And today's announcement and decision by the city to identify their designated parade route is an important step, and it will allow us to continue to finalize our security planning. And I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I want to thank Agents Rowe and Leah. Like Tim says, like Ron said, they've been here on the ground for a good portion of the time. They were appointed. We got phone calls from these guys saying, hey, you know, we're it for you guys for the RNC. And as soon as that becomes official, we'll be here on the ground, and they have been here. And, you know, Ron talked a lot about the partnership of how these things come together, and it's not just by accident of how they come together. There's a plan that's been developed, that's been tested, convention after convention, refined convention after convention, and we follow that plan. There's a lot of things that come up that are unique to certain conventions and certain cities, of course, and we make those adjustments, not individually, but as a group. A lot has been said about whether or not Cleveland is prepared for the RNC in about 50 days here. I have to tell you, we are prepared. We're going to roll out some things today that speak to us getting closer to this convention, things that have to be solidified, that people have to know about in order to come and, we think, enjoy this convention here in the city. Rick Horvath will talk about those things, but I can't stress enough that we are prepared for this. As things get closer and closer, as we solidify parts of the plan that have to be kind of woven, like Ron says, within other plans, we'll roll those things out too. But right now, we're talking about parade routes and speakers platforms and things like that Rick will get into more detail about. But as we go about this process, again, you have to know we're prepared, and you have to know that it's definitely a partnership between the Secret Service, the other agencies represented from the federal government on down to local government that have been working hard for a year for these guys, over a year for us, because once we knew we were in the running to get this, we started that process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick, and he's going to talk more specifics about what's going on today.
For those of you who don't know me, I am the Chief Corporate Counsel for the City of Cleveland. Today at the Board of Control meeting at 10:30, 2 resolutions will be brought out for a vote by the members of the Board of Control. The first resolution deals with permits for the official parade route and park use permits, as well as registration for an official speakers platform. This resolution starts with defining the event zone. The event zone is essentially an area bordered by West 25th Street on the west, the Inner Belt on the east, and the Lorraine-Carnegie Bridge to Orange Avenue on the south. Within the event zone, there will be secure zones. Those have not yet been finalized, but essentially a secure zone is any area that is restricted either by Secret Service or the Department of Public Safety to public access. So the regulations that I'm talking about essentially deal with the portions of the event zone outside the secure zone. The regulations will designate the official parade route for the convention. That route begins at the western end of the Lorraine-Carnegie Bridge. approximately 500 feet to the east of West 20th Street. Paraders will be able to parade across the bridge in very close proximity to the convention complex, to Ontario Avenue, turning right onto Ontario, and proceeding on to Orange Avenue to approximately the area near East 9th Street. That is at the end of the parade route. Paraders will then be able to disperse on the sidewalks either up East 9th Street or East 14th Street towards the Convocation Center as they prefer. Permits may be obtained for the use of the official parade route on Monday the 18th between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. And on Tuesday, yes. All of these regulations only apply to the convention period, which is from Monday the 18th to Thursday the 21st. So on the 18th, parades will be permitted between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Tuesday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The final parade each day either needs to be completed on Monday by 5 p.m. or by 2 p.m. on the rest of the days. Get that on Monday, it is from 2 to 4. Final parade starts at 4, must end by 5. On the other days, it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The 1 p.m. parade must be finished by 2 p.m. Parade permits will be issued in 1-hour increments for the parade route. There are parade regulations, including that the permit holders must be present, obviously. There are certain time periods on which they must be available to stage, and the parades must be completed within a period of about 50 minutes, which is certainly doable with that route. And then also, as is true for the entire event zone, the only sound amplification equipment that will be permitted will be megaphones, bullhorns, and portable battery-operated sound amplification devices. No electric microphones and other speakers. No vehicles will be permitted in a parade. They are solely for marchers. The second permit that will be dealt with today is called a park use permit. What this is, we've been contacted by a number of groups who are interested in putting objects down in city parks. That could be public art, that could be tables, other installations. Those objects hinder the use of the park by pedestrians. So you will need a permit to place these objects in any park in the event zone. But under these regulations, we have designated only 2 parks where these types of installations will be permitted. And that is Willard Park, next to City Hall, and Perk Plaza over on 12th Street. All other public parks will be open to the public on a first-come, first-served basis, as will these 2 parks, Willard and Perk. But those are the only 2 parks in which installations will be allowed to be placed by any group that's coming to town. There are again various regulations that are related here. The objects can't be permanently affixed to the ground, that sort of thing. Plus, in these parks, we won't allow fires. We're not going to allow commercial advertising on city parks or groups seeking to use it as fundraising efforts within our public properties. That'll all be prohibited. But if you want to set up a table for water for your group or that sort of thing, you will be permitted to do so in those 2 parks. Finally, we have designated the official speakers platform for the convention. That will be on Public Square at the new location for the Moses Cleveland statue. It is actually designated on diagrams of the square as the speaker's corner. It is the appropriate place to allow the public to speak. We will have a registration process for that. It isn't really a permit. It is really that we will be allowing speakers to speak in half-hour increments from a time period of 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. And they just need to register with us for those slots. We will provide the equipment, and we will try to manage through the day the movement of these speakers from one group to another on the square during the week of the convention. We are asking first that all groups apply by July 8th. I don't think that'll be much of a problem. We'll probably hear a lot. What is going to happen is the Division of Assessments and Licenses has created an online application form for both of the permits as well as for the registration. It will be available going live next Tuesday, May 31st. Groups may access it online and submit it automatically to us. They can print it off and fax it or PDF it to us, or they can mail it to us, though we're not encouraging mail. If you want to get it in here, hopefully you will do it either online or by fax or PDF to the Division of Licenses and Assessments. All of that will be explained on the city website beginning on May 31st. We have been contacted, as you know, by a number of groups to date. Each of those groups have been entered into the system with a number based on when they contacted us or filed with us. We will reach out to each group in the order that they contacted us, and they will have a first opportunity to complete the new application and submit it to us consistent with these regulations, starting with the very first group and working our way through. And then after that, each group, as they file with us, will again be given a sequential number. Each will be handled in the order that we receive their applications. The only parades within the event zone will be on the official parade route. The only speakers platforms in the event zone will be on the official speakers platform. Groups are open to filing for parade permits and other special use permits using the city's standard permit process for areas outside the event zone. We will review those applications in the same manner we have always reviewed them. I can only caution, however, that because of the attention downtown, parades in the neighborhoods will be very difficult to obtain because of the security demands downtown. But people can ask, and we will try to accommodate everyone that we can accommodate. In addition, the regulations today will have an extensive list of prohibited items in the event zone. There's a long list of items, everything from including lumber, explosives, fireworks, drones, and a whole myriad of objects, coolers, ice chests, lasers, ladders, that are prohibited in the event zone, though there is exclusions for people who live in the business establishments downtown who may have them in their homes or have them in their business establishments. These items are prohibited, obviously, on the streets of Cleveland during the week of the convention. That's one regulation or one resolution that will be presented today. It will be proposed by the Directors of Public Safety and Public Service and will be up for approval at the Board of Control. A second resolution is going to be a walk-on. This was only finalized last evening. There are amendments to our street vendor regulations. Cleveland has extensive street vendor regulations in the city. And again, these regulations adjust the current practices to do a few things. First, it identifies zones in the downtown area where vending will be permitted. There are 3 zones. One out in the area of essentially Prospect and East 15th Street, one along the East 12th Street corridor, and a third in the warehouse district. Vending will be allowed in those areas. City will issue permits for that. The number of permits are capped at a certain number, though in various zones. There's 101 in a zone, for example, and 25 in another, and 100. It all depends on the size. In addition, we will be relocating our hot dog vendors to areas, to these general areas, to allow them to be there. The reason for that is the area immediately downtown is going to be the most congested area, and with the sidewalks being utilized. And if people want to buy food or other retail objects, it'll be a very short walk to go to these vending areas. It'll all be identified for the public on maps before the convention. But for congestion reasons, having them right downtown does not make sense from a planning standpoint. That's a separate set of a resolution that will be before the Board of Control today for approval. That'll be proposed by the Director of Capital Projects for the City of Cleveland. And then finally, in those regulations, Cleveland has right now a very active food truck program. There are mobile food trucks that have a route through downtown Cleveland on a daily basis to sell their items. We have adjusted those routes, again, to have one route on the east side and one route in the warehouse district, and that'll also be announced. So food trucks will continue to be able to operate downtown. They just will be restricted to a new route, again, only during the week of the convention. I think that's covered everything.
Okay. As you can see, it's very thorough, and it reflects the amount of time that people have put into this, trying to come up with a solution to the request, again, balancing safety, security, constitutional rights, and having a successful convention. So any questions?
I noticed that in the event zone, there were certain prohibited items like ladders and lumber, about assault rifles.
Well,
In the event zone, as some of you may know in the room, the state of Ohio regulates firearms and dangerous ordinances. Our regulations merely say any weapons that are prohibited under state law. We will hopefully have an advisory going out. We're working with the Attorney General's office on that to identify what is permitted and what is not permitted with respect to firearms in the state of Ohio. But the city of Cleveland can't regulate firearms in the state of Ohio.
Tents or camping, things like that, camp out?
No, not in the event zone, no.
after the resolutions are passed, will they be receiving a copy?
That's true.
And I think in those copies, a lot of the details.
Yes,
will be in there.
I've given you a summary, but
Right.
Is
multiple
open
pages.
carry allowed along the parade route?
What's that?
Open carry, it's an open carry state.
It is whatever the laws of the state of Ohio will allow.
Has there been any thought to keeping some groups or trying to prevent them from basically intermingling? Some groups that might not be friendly to each other?
That is an
Speak
issue.
at the microphone.
That's an issue for public safety.
Yes, there has.
Chief, where do you stand with recruiting officers from outside? Are you at full strength yet?
Again, we're still in that process. We're not at full strength where we want to be, but we're very close to that. Every day I sign agreements with outside agencies to come and help secure the convention. So we're getting there. We're close. We're on schedule, I should say.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'm wondering, can you tell me the timetable for approving the permits for the parades or protests? Because there's been so much concern about that, and these protest groups call delay, and they say if it's not by June 1st, they're going to go to court. So can you speak to the timetable when these groups will start to find out, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that?
And that'll all begin on Tuesday. We hope to act as quickly and expeditiously as we can.
Begin on Tuesday, meaning groups will start to find out on Tuesday?
No, on Tuesday is when the application process opens.
But what about the groups that have already filed applications?
That we will be contacting each of them in order and explaining the new rules and regulations and see how they want to possibly revise the application they previously sent to us. All of that will commence on Tuesday. And as soon as we possibly can issue permits, we're ready to do it. The assessments and licenses section has been trained and ready to go.
Having said that, if you could start on Tuesday, realistically, are you thinking it's going to be a week, 2 weeks?
As soon as we possibly
A
can.
lot of things to a lot of different people, that's why I asked that.
Sure. Well, as I've explained, registration for the speakers platform can be done immediately. I mean, all you have to do is register with us for that. So what you're talking about is park use and parade permits. It really depends on how the groups need to assess what time they want to do it, and within the regulations that we have determined, resubmit or modify their applications. But as soon as we get them, it's an electronic process. All the approvals will be done electronically. It can move very quickly once we have a completed application.
So what criteria could you be rejected by?
There is criteria set forth in the regulations. It primarily comes down to safety issues.
Rick, we talked earlier about the possibility of multiple groups want the same space at the same time of there being a lottery, but hearing you today, it sounds like you're going to take things in order that they were received. What has the city decided on that point?
It's all on a first-come, first-served basis, again, from the very first application forward, till all the space is used.
And it sounds like we have the event zone decided, so we don't need to wait for final perimeter for you to make a decision on permits that are outside that event zone?
We don't need to wait for the secure zone to be fixed before we proceed with all of these permits. I mean, this is ready to go. And what we are proposing today will not interfere in any way with the final plans for the secure zone. We have worked this out so that we can immediately start issuing permits to people. And we intend to do it as quickly as possible.
When do you plan on announcing the secure zone? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's not for me to announce.
So we intend to announce the contours and boundaries of the secure perimeter in advance of the event. We will do so in a coordinated effort with the city. It will be available and for public review, and we want to get it out as early as possible so that people will know exactly what it will look like, and we will do this in a coordinated rollout prior to the event, weeks before the event will commence.
Will people be permitted to demonstrate on sidewalks and things like that, independently of the parade route?
Traditionally, Cleveland has always allowed parades on sidewalks, and these regulations do the same.
Yes.
Well, demonstrations is really just an exercise of First Amendment activity. So that, you're able to parade on city sidewalks in the Central Business District. That was permitted today and will continue to be permitted during the convention, outside the secure areas.
They're not granted a parade permit.
You do not need to have a parade permit today to march on the sidewalks in the city of Cleveland.
And then you said earlier that the state law would dictate the allowance of firearms and so forth. Do you expect that the state will try to pass any sort of special laws, or will it just be kind of the general state of
That is
firearms laws right now?
purely up to the state. We have no control over that.
What happens with all your slots for class speakers or parade routes?
And that's all the space we have available within the event zone.
So it's first come, first served, and
Yes.
cut off.
And that's true for other conventions as well. There's really not that much that's unique in what we are announcing today. We followed models coming from other past conventions in other cities, and it's the same situation. There's a limited amount of space. We're hoping to accommodate everyone who wants a use. That is our goal. But at some point in time, we could get so many requests that we're not going to be able to accommodate them all. So that's why you need to apply soon, as soon as it opens.
You've mentioned Burke Park and Willard. What about Voinovich Park? Is that available for demonstration?
Any other city park would be available to the public to the extent that it is not being leased and committed to a convention-related activity. If the convention, for example, wanted to use Voinovich Park during a particular period of time, they have the right to do that. First and foremost, our contract with the host committee allows them to use public spaces for convention-related activity. To the extent that Voinovich Park is not needed for convention-related activity, it'll be open to the public to use.
I've not seen any permits from the host committee or convention committee for Voinovich yet, so at this point, have they reserved that right?
I can't speak for them, but, you know, I don't know, Valerie, you want to give any clarification on that?
Sure. As of right now, just part of our overall agreement, there are certain things that we have contractually obligated with the committee on arrangements. Right now, as of today, Voinovich Park is one of those. If the closer it gets to the event that they decide that they no longer need it for programming or for whatever they're going to use it, then we will turn it back into the public ground.
Mayor Jackson, as the spotlight is focused on Cleveland nationally and internationally during this event, any reports coming in would see that 400 kids a year are being poisoned by lead, which is causing irreversible brain damage. I haven't heard you say anything publicly about it. Why is this not an emergency or a crisis here?
Well, you won't hear me say anything about it today either. I'm focused on this. And it is a crisis not only in Cleveland, it's across this country.
Well, that's the first I've heard you say something about it. You've been in office over 10 years, 400 kids a year getting poisoned. You don't seem like you're in emergency mode here.
Well, that's your opinion. You had a question?
I have a few follow-ups. In addition to the question of Voinovich, I think a few of these groups have talked about using the mall area there for different demonstrations. That's not on your list. Is that going to be accessible, or does that fall inside your secure zone, given that it's right by the convention center?
Keep in mind that what we're dealing with here is permits to place installations on public parks. That's why it's limited to Willard and Perk Plaza. Any other public space that is not otherwise being utilized for the convention will be available for any group to use on a first-come, first-served basis. As I think you should know, the media is in this room. The media will be located at the convention center, and we anticipate they will be using portions of the malls. And to the extent that they don't need any portions of that, it again, just like with Voinovich Park, will be returned to the public to use on a first-come, first-served basis. But the media will be making its decision first as to what portions of the mall they need for their own public communication to what's happening at the convention.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were
Sure.
finished. I have just a question that, what about all the groups that we know will come and protest without a permit and say, you know what, we're going to block the shoreway, we're going to block this street, we're just going to do what we want. What about all those groups? We assume that there's going to be some.
Yeah, that's a public safety issue.
Thanks. Ed, as you know, we've dealt with that for the last year and a half, and we'll deal with it during the convention, the same way we always have. You know, if it's a public safety issue, we'll clear a roadway. If it's not, then people are allowed to sit down and take it easy. But we'll deal with it the way we've always done it in this city.
When you say they're allowed to sit down and take it easy, it almost implies that it's okay to walk on the streets.
Ed, we will deal with it the same way we've dealt with it for the last year and a half, on a case-by-case basis, based on public safety and ingress and egress for this city.
I guess I'm not trying to be difficult here, but in that case, why require permits? Because some folks will say, we're going to, in our mind, have a protest that disrupts traffic, that doesn't really disrupt traffic, so I don't really need a permit.
Well, again, Ed, it's on a case-by-case basis. If there's a public safety component to it, we will enforce the law. If there's not a public safety enforcement component to it, if we can direct traffic around like we always do, and we can still have business flow as normal, then we'll do that. It depends on the situation.
If I could just correct one thing that was pointed out to me. When it comes to the malls, the media is actually not issuing the permit. The permits are all going to be flowing through the Committee on Arrangements for the media. So it is the Committee on Arrangements that will be obtaining the permits for the media on the malls.
On the speaker's platform, you said you will be managing it. First of all, will electronic amplification be used there? And
Yes.
by managing it, you'll have somebody there saying, okay, your half hour's up. Next.
Sure. Exactly. Now, it'll all be managed by city employees, and yes, there will be electronic sound amplification equipment that's there for the use of the speakers.
Now, we have 10:30 Border Control. It's always dangerous, but one more question. Nobody. All right, thank you very much. Thank you.